Hello, friends. It's Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle, and I've seen almost nothing.
I'm Nella. I've watched a little bit of everything, and I've finished almost nothing.
That's right, our surprise guest. Are you surprised?
Woo!
I mean, I'm surprised. No, I'm not. That's a lie. I knew this was coming because you made me watch 5 episodes of the show.
Sure did.
I can't wait to hear how you felt about these 5 episodes.
Joy, it's finally happening. You're finally going to make me watch all of Fringe.
It's
Even
happening.
though I'm sitting there and the whole time I was sitting there watching these 5 episodes, I was like, oh yeah, I need to go back to finishing Leverage.
Is this when I admit that I don't know what that is and have not seen it?
Well, I mean, that's the gimmick. So it works.
It happens once per episode at minimum on your Binge O'Clock bingo card. Has Danielle seen it?
Yes.
The answer is no.
The answer is no. In case you're new to Binge O'Clock, we are a podcast that looks at shows, have either run their course over about 4 to 5 seasons, or if they're just one season, like our last season with Almost Human, we take a little bit of a more in-depth look at a per episode, per podcast. This one's going to be a little different. Fringe is going to be, because it is 5 seasons, and oh boy, that would be a couple of years, and we're not doing that. Instead, what we've done is we've divided up the 100 episodes into 20-odd podcast episodes. So we will actually be binging this show. So Danielle, you don't have to hit stop after each episode.
I did, in fact, watch 5 episodes last night. So
There it is. Perfect. Because if you're like us and you're looking for something to do after you get home from work, you know what's great? About 5 to 6 hours of television.
lovely.
I was gonna try to make a joke about how Danielle has seen almost nothing, but she's actually seen Fringe.
I love Fringe. I've seen it multiple times. Let me say this. I have seen seasons 1 through 3 multiple times. I have seen seasons 4 and 5 precisely maybe twice. We'll hazard twice.
I know. See, now that frightens me.
I mean, just to get it out of the way right now, season 4 deals with a lot of multiple timelines, which is, I think, what Danielle is getting at. And season 5 is a completely different show set in the same universe. So let's just clear that up right now. That is why seasons 4 and 5 are kind of a little bit disjointed from the entire show. I still think they fit.
Yeah.
However, I could definitely understand somebody being like, but this isn't the show I've been watching for 3 seasons.
Yes.
Fair.
Is this going to be like Star Trek Into Darkness for me in that it doesn't exist? Like, am I
Star Trek Into Darkness?
You also probably haven't seen it. It's okay. I haven't seen that one either. I will go to my grave never seeing that movie. It's fine.
First off, I think we should get to know our guest, Nella.
Hi.
Yes.
So what kind of a binge watcher are you, Nella?
I start with the best of intentions. I really tend to really try to just sit down and watch those things that I know I'll love. I know I'll love them if I just start them. And then some of them, they actually stick. Some of them I get like through a season and then I make the mistake of walking away to do something else. And then sometimes I get back to them and sometimes I never do. It's anyone's game.
What do you mean by know you'll love?
Oh, so like there'll be shows like, for example, Gravity Falls was one I just knew that once I started it, it was going to hit me and I would love it. And then there are other shows like for example, it took me a long time to get into Doctor Who because I knew that like there was so much to watch. And I knew once I started, I would have to watch it all, which did happen. And there's
Did you actually watch all of Doctor Who?
No. Okay. Well, all of New Who.
New Who.
That's
Okay,
fair.
that's fair.
I've gone back and I have watched some classic Who, but there are still so many hours in a day in one's lifetime. I am no Time Lord. So their choices have to be made.
This is true. I mean, I also know as big of a Star Trek fan that you are, there are holes in your Star Trek.
I'm still, I mean, every night you're like, let's watch Discovery. And I'm like, it's too much.
This is true.
You're talking to someone whose favorite Star Trek is the original series. It's a lot.
I know.
Whereas
it is.
Discovery is the second of the Star Treks I've seen.
Yeah, meanwhile, Danielle and I can grok almost the entire Discovery series, and I'm like, but Nella, you should watch it. And it's like, it is heavy.
But the thing is,
heavy.
once I do, it's like it took me forever to get around to Picard. Because I knew once I started, I'd have to just keep going. And I know once I actually really sit down, and I mean, I've loved what you showed me so far, but I guess that's my answer then. I'm not really a binge watcher. I'm a very selectively binge watcher. Either it grabs my soul and I can't stop, or I can walk away from it.
I mean, that's great. That feels like a skill I sometimes wish I had. There are a lot of things that I'm like, you probably should have walked away from watching this. But I was just like, no, I'm committed to finishing it, which is weird because, like, I'm only a completionist with the things I love, even if they don't turn out so well for certain seasons.
The only reason I finished Person of Interest was because you watched ahead and you were like, look, season 4, it's going to kill you. But season 5 is worth it. I need you to push. And then I got back on that Person of Interest bus and I cried and I hated it. And then the ending came and I was like, all right, I see why you made me.
This is precisely what I need because I saw, I watched Person of Interest until the thing, uppercase T, uppercase T happened. And then I stopped.
Yeah, because it's a big uppercase T, isn't it?
It was you.
It is. It's hard.
I didn't need that in my life at that point in my life.
No, I really didn't. I stopped.
And then I think, my God, could you imagine watching this on TV and having to wait for more? I never would have gone back to it.
That's why watching on TV is a sucker's game. I'm more of an online streaming fan.
I was just going to say, so did you start binge watching stuff with like online streaming, or did you have like VHS and DVDs and watch them over and over again?
It was streaming. I didn't record TV shows like that. And the things I watched, you know, growing up, it was all the cartoons where the order was made up and the points didn't matter. It's, you know, and
it's so true. Watching them again with the nostalgia factor, I'm just like, wow, I did really love this, but wow, does none of it make sense?
So there's that whole point in Gargoyles where like Puck becomes a thing. And I'm still, I mean, I have not started a rewatch of Gargoyles because I'm bad at this, but like a part of me is just like, okay, I need to know, when does Puck enter into it? Like, when do we hit Macbeth? Because we hit Macbeth at some point. And I remember watching that on TV and being like, how do we get here? Wait a minute.
It's so true, though. And also, there were way too many clones and robots that I didn't remember.
Oh my God, that's right. There were clone robots.
Yes. Disney Plus came out with Gargoyles, and I like binged something like the first season and a half. And I was like, I forgot that like robots and clones and like all these things and like past lives and what it was intense.
Yeah.
But what was the first show you rewatched then streaming, do you think?
After college, when I hit, you know what it was? It was college. I picked up the complete Jeeves and Wooster because I had them on DVDs and I was writing fic and I was able just to pick it apart because I fell in love with Jeeves and Wooster. And then after that, it was, I like downloaded all like the they did the Star Wars thing to the Star Trek original series where they added extra things like and animations that when they first did not fit. It was just like, why would you do that? So I specifically downloaded all the original episodes without all the bells and whistles, and then I watched those over and over and over and over again.
Oh wait, that's right. I brought over my Blu-ray set that had them all and you could switch between the two.
Yes, and I was like, oh, thank God, that's what I needed this whole time. I just wanted to be able to turn that nonsense off. Anyway. Although now I've sort of mellowed out on that sort of thing. I do enjoy watching them walk up to, where the Ponfar is about to happen and we see Vulcan and I'm just like, all right, well, that I guess is okay. Mm-hmm. I guess.
Was it Star Trek that you will watch over and over again even now, or is it something else? Is it Person of Interest? Because that's what it is for me, probably.
I haven't really touched Person of Interest in a couple of years, I feel like. And with Star Trek, at this point, it's not like I'll rewatch an entire series. I'll pick out the ones, like the episodes that I'm in the mood for.
Yeah.
I don't really do like I sit down and watch a whole series all over again. Oh, the only one that I can say that for, but does it really count? It's a miniseries, is Over the Garden Wall. I will watch that once a year before and around Halloween.
I was about to call you on that because I was like, wait, I know for a fact that you watch Over the Garden Wall over and over.
Well, you two are the ones who introduced me to that show.
And the thing about Over the Garden Wall for me is that it's more of a movie than a series.
Oh, yeah. It is. Because you could watch it in 2 hours.
Exactly.
And in my opinion, it's like, are you even binging at that point? You basically just sat down to an episodic movie.
Yeah, precisely. So does it count? You know, is a hot dog a sandwich? Is a hot dog a taco?
We can't have this debate
Our taco
on the
sandwiches.
podcast. We'll never get to the show.
All right.
As someone who loves Fringe, let me say, last season we covered Almost Human, 1 TV episode, 1 podcast episode, right? This time we decided we'd do things a little bit differently. We're going to cover, Joy, 4 to 5 TV episodes per podcast episode.
Yeah, it's probably going to end up being between 4 and 6. But what we're aiming for is the quarter mark of the season and then mid-season finales. Mm-hmm. Sort of doing it that way.
Wait, so Nella, how much of Fringe had you seen previously? And what do you know about it?
I mean, I know
The very few episodes I made you watch.
Yes. And I feel like Joy really sort of gave me the curated season 1 because I do feel like we got to the alternate universe.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I witnessed Evil Dunham or whatever her name is. Evil Olivia. I think I got to Evil Liv.
That's
Olivia.
That's solidly
Olivia.
season 3.
Then you were really jumping me around. I was Fringe
Or 4?
Science.
That's 3 or 4 for sure. I wish I could tell you I remembered.
Is Fringe Science.
Don't ask me where I buried the bodies, Danielle. I won't be able to tell you. But you'll be able to read it in my mind.
Yes, you will look at us and you will be able to tell us with your brain thoughts what is happening.
Yeah, I remember like faux Liv comes in and then she's like trying to suss out the kind of person she is in this world. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh, this is going to end poorly. But that's about all I got to. She was definitely like doing some recon on like.
I will say the reason I did this to Nella is because the issue is that episode 2 is what it is. Mm-hmm. And then I instantly was like, I need to show you some episodes that aren't awful.
Oh, okay.
Like I think we watched the first 10 minutes of that episode and she was like, I can't watch this show.
Like, remember how quickly I checked out of that latest season of Handmaid's Tale?
Redacted. No, it was, wait, we're not here to talk about Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, well, we'll take the Handmaid's Tale offline because I'm sure there's also people listening who are like, I'm actually working my way through Handmaid's Tale. Thank you kindly. Let's get back to Fringe and lens flare. Not torture. No, there's torture in Fringe.
There's definitely some torture in Fringe.
But it's like old school Soviet, Cold War, Americans trying to read minds to fight the Soviets kind of torture. So, I mean,
and it's not torture if they don't know that it's being done to them.
Sure.
This is where I'm subtly referencing episodes 2 and 3 of this show.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, okay, so before we get into the episodes, very quickly, for anyone who's not familiar with Fringe, it is a science fiction series about, in giant quotation marks, fringe science. And it is a fringe science team that investigates bizarre scientific occurrences related to something called the pattern.
Uppercase T, uppercase P. The pattern.
Yes. The pattern. Every time Broyle says the pattern,
you can hear the capitalization.
I think my eye twitches at this point. Every time someone says the pattern. Actually, I think Nina Sharp is the first person to say, do you think these events could be connected to the pattern? And I was just like, wow, have I missed this banal word being thrown around?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, has the FBI ever really been good at naming anything? Ever?
Have they? Fringe stars Anna Torv, John Noble, Joshua Jackson, and a whole bunch more folks. It's quite an ensemble cast. It was created by J.J. Abrams, Alex Kurtzman, and Roberto Orsi. And originally aired, I believe it was 2008 and ran until 2013. Although these episodes, I was trying to explain to Nella, I feel like when they were originally on air, they dropped them kind of like Steven bombs for Steven Universe. I feel like I got 4 episodes and then waited a month and then got another 4 episodes like weekly and then waited another 3 weeks. Like, I don't exactly know what their schedule was, but it was a little disjointed. So that's Fringe. We highly recommend this show, or at least the first 3 seasons. A few spoilers up top. If you watch the first 10 minutes of Fringe and you are horrified, do not watch the rest of Fringe because it does not get better. This is what I tell everyone who's just like, I might want to watch Fringe. And I'm like, okay, so if the opening sequence, the cold open, bothers you, don't keep watching.
Well, I mean, the question is, like, how do you feel about practical effects and horror movies? I mean, that's really the big question. How much do you handle gore in a horror movie?
I think it's gore specifically. You two know this about me. It's never ghosts. It's never a demon or a spirit. And if that's the sort of thing that scares you, then you're fine. But if the sort of thing that scares you is that someone turns toward you and all of a sudden their jaw falls off their face, then perhaps this isn't the show for you.
Maybe go watch literally anything else. As I was watching this in 2008, it reminded me so much of The X-Files that I could not... Like, the first season of The X-Files is basically just straight up horror tropes. Every single episode for like a whole season.
Which honestly is probably why we don't have a medical examiner or a forensic pathologist, because we already had a show with a Scully and we have enough of a cast and we don't want to pay someone else, which bothers me. You really needed a forensic pathologist. Walter can't do everything.
Yes. Okay. See, I feel that exact same way about this show. And I feel like Astrid should have been that character.
Right? Just going to say it right now. Charlie is my MVP side character. I love him. He's beautiful. I want him to live 1,000 years. I know that's probably not going to be the case. I can see the writing on the wall. Astrid, I'm just looking at her and I'm just like, I wish the show gave you more to do. Yeah. And I'm really hoping that happens, because right now you are like the worst kind of Doctor Who companion. You're just there to ask questions and to sit. And that's it. That's all you're doing.
Clean up after the doctor.
I think literally the first thing she does, they have her go off screens, go fetch something.
Yeah. To go get ginger ale.
Yes.
Ginger ale.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the second thing she does is she scoops salt into the tank that Olivia climbs into.
Like, she's an FBI agent. She's not an intern. And even then,
I know.
Go get your own swear jar. Ginger ale. Well, all right. There we go. My first point for the swear jar. Before we started, I made a joke about how I am bad about swearing. I asked what kind of show this podcast was, if I would have to watch myself. And I was assured, well, probably it would be okay. And then I joked about, well, I could just start a swear jar. And then at the end of the recording, or the end of the season, when we're all done with Fringe, I can donate that money to, I don't know, science literacy or something.
Actual science.
Actual science.
Like the actual science.
STEM.
In honor of Astrid, who's really getting the short stick, and it's only been 5 episodes.
Now, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty, but to discuss the 5 mysteries we've seen so far in terms of how gross, weird, and scary they are, I'm pretty sure that if we went 3, 2, 1, 0, we would be able to count down and say in unison the grossest of these 5 mysteries.
I mean, are we talking gross as in practical effects or gross as in personal body horror? Like, what's the line here?
That is a great question. My instinct is to say practical effects.
Okay.
What do you think is the grossest episode in terms of practical effects?
No, it's episode 1.
It's episode 1.
It is, in fact, the pilot.
It's episode 1.
A man's skin becomes translucent. I mean, I'm not personally grossed out by it, but I mean, it's a cool effect, and I could see people being like, ew.
The skeletons on the plane were a little cartoony for me. Like the idea that it was like, and then your flesh was goo and you were just skeleton. But then I was like, this is how you know the different thing is happening to Agent Scott, because his bones seem to dissolve into his skin. Like we're looking at veins and a brain. Like you don't even see bone.
I mean, there were people literally like moving their hands down their faces in agony, and then their skin was falling off in their hands, which was, can we discuss who even was it who projectile vomited into the flight attendant's mouth?
I believe that was the OG.
Yeah,
I believe that was the OG
Patient
guy
Zero.
who stuck himself. It was pretty gross.
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
gross.
No one asked for that.
Pilot was nasty.
It was disgusting. And again, listeners at home, if you can't get through that cold open, the rest of the show it lets up, quote unquote, lets up a little bit, but like it's a lot of that, especially season 1. There is a lot of body horror in season 1. I watched it the first time, and I remember my first thought was, oh. and then the credits ran to give you an idea of my first impression. There's a man with his jaw turning to jelly, and I just go, huh.
All right.
Look at that.
I really feel like the pilot was like, well, if this doesn't get us canceled on Fox, then we're golden.
Right? I mean, not only does it get gross, it then gets weird, because the first twist you get in the pilot is, what if it's twins?
Yeah.
It's true, though. That's actually my thought watching it again after so long, as I was just like, oh, why is my first thought BBC Sherlock? It's never twins. It's twins.
Did you feel that the worst body horror episode, though, was the woman who got pregnant?
Look, that squicked me out so much harder than the first episode. Like, really and truly, because it's just like, I have complicated feelings about pregnancy to begin with, and then you tell me a woman has a one-night stand and then ends up dead? Like, because in an hour, the baby grows so big, it rips through her? No, excuse you.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I believe while we were watching that episode, Nella, they finally made it into the actual emergency room, and, the poor woman passes out or dies or whatever, and then there's that sound.
There's a sound.
And the man obviously gets nauseous, and then the woman screams, and Nella and I both went, yeah, the woman screamed.
Anyone with a uterus
would scream.
Yep.
Scream.
Yep.
Anyone with that bit within them, welcome to hell.
Yeah. Which is why that one for me was scary. And I don't know, I don't know if it's my own personal biases of being a person with a uterus that I was just like, wow, did I not ever want that to happen to my body, that in particular. And that was what scared me about it. I found it particularly upsetting that this guy targeted women for their pituitary gland for a thing he had. And the Fringe science, as Nella may or may not explain in a second, didn't exactly make sense, because it's like also, he didn't take any other medication.
And here's the thing. For hypo or hyperpituitarism, for hypo where you're not getting enough growth hormone, we give kids growth hormone to try to balance that out. If you have a hyperpituitary, there's not really a chemical treatment that could be done, from the best I can see. But here's the thing, when that happens for people, and I understand, but it's pseudoscience, and they were trying to make biosoldiers that you could just spring out of the ground fully formed, like Athena. I get it, but also, it tends to come with this, tumors and, benign tumors, but, that's how you tend to have to treat it. You have to try to, remove tumors. It's not good. And then even when you look at, instances of disorders where cells in your body decays very quickly, he wouldn't be looking like that. And I also have questions about how his sperm is even functioning, if that's what he's dealing with. And also, I'm just so you take the pituitaries I'm confused about how a functional pituitary slows anything down for you, sir. Because your problem, sir, seems to be you have too much growth hormone.
Yes.
Why is putting more growth hormone in you the solution? And why is it only nubile young women? Like, okay, like, look, it's tragic. You're a monster and you have to consume the flesh of other people to survive. But you have a type. There's a lot of, you could have just killed indiscriminately. You could have killed old men. You could have killed, like people you just met on the street, but you had a type. You went Ted Bundy on it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah, I didn't come here for Ted Bundy with a pituitary problem.
Yeah.
That's not what I did.
That's so when he dies at the end, I'm just like, I'm sorry, am I supposed to feel bad for you, monster of science?
I don't think you are.
One, it's kind of like when Marvel is like, hey, Kilgrave, like, don't you kind of feel bad for him because, like, he could never... And I'm like, no, these are choices that have been made. And even, like, if his, like, science father was like, I'm sorry, science son, this is the only way for you to survive. You're just going to have to kill. Like, I understand that survival is a deep instinct, but I kind of feel like most people would be like, well, I guess I'm going to die. Because, like, no one wants to just indiscriminately murder for their own survival unless you're into it. And this guy was obviously very into it. And I'm just like, you psycho.
Yeah, it was a really involved process.
Yes. Can we, because like what kind of negging did this guy do to get these women to come to this warehouse alone with him?
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the fact that they're all implied to be sex workers. And it's just like, well, this is why when we got rid of, Backdoor and all those programs, we put women at risk. So like, I feel like this guy would have been much better caught if we had legal sex work in this country. There, I said it.
I do think, and we even talked about this in Almost Human, where it was just like, wow, the sex industry. It's almost like if you had legality and regulation and the understanding of a thing, you could figure some stuff out. This episode in particular is where I get a lot of feelings of similarity with shows like The X-Files, for example, where there is a guy who's like, I need to get the livers of people with this type of blood, but who are also cancer survivors or something, who have had cancer. And I forget if it's actually liver. It might actually be a gland in the brain. But it's like he is a monster trying to pick that out. But he also literally picks out people out of a crowd. He's just like, I know what you are. You are the thing I need. And it's not just random women that you pick up in a bar. Like, it's so...
He's just a serial killer with a medical condition. That's all this guy is. He's not interesting. There's nothing tragic about him.
The only quote-unquote interesting thing about him, and even that is like pushing it, is the connection that Olivia has to this case because she worked on it with John.
Yeah.
And it is interesting to be like, you could be working on the pattern case without even knowing it.
Well, I mean, and this episode was our first introduction to the Shadow Council of Secrets and Lies. I mean, so...
Oh my God, yeah, don't get attached to them, Nella.
Oh, so they just disappear. Are you really telling me that we never, ever come back to the Shadow Council of Shadows and Secrets again?
I will tell you that Nina Sharp is a recurring character and that Broyles is obviously in nearly every episode.
Yes.
But I don't even think we see the rest of those men in that room, and I don't even think we go back to that room again. I think this was the show trying to set up a thing of like the evil Shadow Council of numbers and old men and one woman.
Yeah.
Also,
well, she leaned into the Shadows and Secrets, so.
Oh, no, she leans hard. Nina Sharp goes hard or goes home.
Oh, totally.
No, yeah. Nina Sharp is actually also my favorite side character because she's so conniving. She has all her fingers and all the pies, but you never quite know whose side she's on.
Right.
I actually think she was sitting there because William Bell is out of town. So I do think it's like a council of old men. And I don't even remember. Danielle, do we ever even see that house again? Like wherever the heck we were? It was like someone's living room with like a giant fireplace
I mean, I
fireplace.
certainly don't remember it coming up again. Maybe it did, but it was so nondescript.
Look, I mean, it's obvious there's a lot of things going on, and like even just the pilot, where it's just like, why did you make that choice? Like, for example, with Broyles, like having beef with Olivia because like she like got his buddy fired because his buddy was like a rapist, and I'm just like,
Basically.
Broyles, the bro code is you gotta step away from it. This is a bad look, my friend. And then like by like the 5th episode, you're like, Broyles, he respects Olivia. Really wish I could get over the fact that he was just like, but my friend was good. He was a sexual assaulter, my good dude. What?
I know.
And then of course there's the John Scott stuff where it's just like there's a heel turn that happens and then he doesn't quite disappear, and I'm really curious about what we're doing with that.
Ooh,
I'm really curious
what happens with that.
Because he is such like that the chiseled jaw on that man.
I know.
He looks like a very well-bred dog, and you just kind of want to be like, I want you to redeem yourself, John Scott, but I'm also glad that you got what was coming to you
That because you got
after all that Olivia did for you in that first episode alone.
Yep.
You deserve to go out like a swear jar. There.
Yeah.
Swear jar number 2.
That's
fine.
2.
I earned
Gotta
that
say.
one. I earned that for what John Scott does to Olivia.
I wasn't
You
ever
did.
here for his redemption. I was never looking for his redemption. I do think their choice with Broyles was interesting because, not to spoil anything, but Broyles 100% becomes one of my favorites. He does.
I mean, I feel like he will have growth. Like I do.
And I don't know whether to view it as growth or to view it as one writer one time wrote this conflict into the pilot and then they decided, you know what, we don't love this. And then they just dropped it. You know, is it like, do I consider it part of him, or is it just that pilot shine?
The show does a good job of circling back around to what Broyles was talking about. Mm-hmm. They don't exactly return to like, wow, Broyles is being such a jerk. What? Like, and then he turns back into a jerk. It's more like the guy he's talking about in that pilot, they do actually bring him into the show. And they play around with that a little bit. So it is addressed, but like there's that moment in the pilot where Broyles is like, I feel like you and I got off on the wrong foot. And it was like, yeah, Broyles, it's like...
Yeah, dude. Also, I think that Olivia gets called honey and sweetheart at least 6 times.
Yeah.
In
yeah.
that
And
first
so many times
episode.
I hated it.
The honey and darlings and dear are there, like in all these 5 episodes. There's a lot of them. There's like an uncomfortable amount of them. And I understand this was 2008 and we needed shorthand for girl boss dealing with misogyny in the workplace.
Did we need that shortcut?
No, we didn't, but that's what they were doing. No one needed it. But writers decided, want to know what's a good, easy shortcut? Men calling her honey.
I mean, at least in the pilot, she deals with it with Peter once. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, yeah, call me sweetie again. I really like it. And I'm just like, yeah, Olivia, you tell him. Of course, she can't say that to Broyles because Broyles is her, well, not her boss at the time, but like Broyles is a superior.
He could make life hard for her.
He could.
Exactly.
He could. And probably the thing that's most frustrating to me in that pilot is that she and Peter have such good chemistry off the bat.
They do, yeah.
Yep. Immediately.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. And obviously it plays out well in later episodes, but in the very first episode, when he is just, when there's so very little redeeming about him, and he is one of the ones calling her honey and sweetheart, it is really frustrating.
Yes.
It's like, Peter, you're going to have to earn my respect now.
Yeah.
I'll ship it, but I'm going to make you pay.
I kind of want to skip around a little bit. Can we skip around? Why don't we talk about episode 5?
Honestly, I have so few notes for 3, but in regards to 5, I mean, I was just happy that I really thought it was going to be like 2 all over again, where you were going to give me somebody with powers, but who was actually a monster. Like, but the main character is just you feel real bad for him.
Yeah.
And I was happy. I was kind of happy where it's just like, you were just somebody down on your luck. You were trying to like make your life better. You have, okay, fine. You have a nagging mother, but like, you're obviously someone who's been put up with a lot. You suffered a lot of abuse. You do not know how to talk to women. You're kind of a creeper, but like you're harmless. And then you have this power where you don't know how to control it. And my heart really felt for that guy. I was so glad there was no heel turn for this character. That he was just like an innocent.
I completely agree. I also like that the only person who mispronounces his name is his boss.
And bless, Walter just can't remember names to begin with. So like, well, Walter gets a pass because he's got too many bats up in the belfry.
Oh my God. Walter is lucky he remembers his own name.
Precisely.
Which he literally forgot in one of the episodes.
That's what I was going to say. He doesn't always.
Walter's got enough on his plate. Which, can we just, like, John Noble. Blessed John Noble. How is he so good at playing both incredibly endearing, desperately sweet, and also terrifying?
Yes.
Because, like, there are moments where John Noble, like, I forget which episode it was, but Walter shifts.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh.
Pretty sure that's episode 4.
I think so. It's
I
right
don't
around,
like it.
It's right around 3 or 4 where Peter is...
Sorry, there is a moment, this happens very early on in episode 2, where he becomes very aggressive very quickly, where they're trying to talk to him and he's trying to examine the body. He shuts them down. So, like, you start seeing it there, and in episode 4, he, like, rips Peter a new one and mentions Peter's mother. It's just like, don't mention the mom.
Yeah.
That was your first mistake.
Which... Was it Walter's fault? No, I do think that Peter was being pretty rude, pretty belligerent.
Yeah.
And I mean, what I'll say about Walter is like, I feel like there was a lot of these shows in the 2000s where you had like the brilliant guy who does everything. And like, he's always smarmy. And the thing about Walter is he's not smarmy. He is brilliant. He's out of it. And he's got his demons. His trauma bleeds. And watching at least these first 5 episodes, when you just watch someone, you're like, oh, you're not in control of your actions at all.
Yes. And that's what made this show different from so many other things I'd seen.
Yeah.
Is it allowed itself to deal with the trauma of what he experienced and who he is now as a person.
Yeah.
Which isn't, and you'll see this in the next, I feel like towards the middle of season 1, you're going to see more of this. And not only is it the 17 years in St. Clair's, like there is other trauma. And, obviously the show tries to deal with it as much as it can. But yeah, we could actually circle back around to, I suppose, 3. Actually, no, wait. What did you guys have for 5? Was it weird, gross, or scary? I had weird.
I had weird. I would say weird.
I think so. I honestly wasn't even taking notes in order. I was just kind of putting things in categories.
Can I just say, Liv, when you're chasing someone that you think you're going to help, maybe not threaten to shoot them. Like, this guy is having a really rough time of it. You're pretty sure he's like not a bad guy. He's just kind of not controlling himself.
Mm-hmm.
And your solution is to chase him and threaten to shoot him. You're such a cop.
I know.
She really is. And she chases someone at gunpoint, I think, every episode for the first 5 episodes.
Yeah.
She only shoots one of them, though.
Bless.
I'm pretty sure she only shoots the one in episode 4.
Yeah. No, I think that is the attack eyebrows guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
With the mind control. With the mind control machine. With the metal suppository.
Yes.
So the fourth one, actually really, the fourth one bothered me because that was my big Justice for Astrid episode because of what happens to Astrid. And I was just like, look, show, all right, we're 5 episodes in. I really need you to not do this to the black woman anymore. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. You really messed this one up. That is a federal agent. She is not just the cute lab rat. She is a federal agent. so we need to stop this right now. Because Astrid gets tranked. She turns her back on Walter. He tranks her. So
she's the one who hands him the syringe too.
Yeah. And it's a betrayal. And like, do I appreciate that Walter tries to apologize? Yes.
It's not a real apology, though.
I think for Walter, it's as good as you're going to get. Yeah. And he knows he did wrong. I do think he knows he did terribly. But I'm glad that Astrid doesn't forgive him right away. Mm-hmm. But also, I feel like he does get away a little easily on that one. So it's, I was not happy with any of this, to be honest.
I totally agree. I mean, as far as Astrid goes, I completely agree. I don't think the show needed to do that.
No, they didn't. Just go send her for another swear jar. There we go. Another swear jar. Ginger ale.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. Because they sent Peter away.
Yeah.
But he felt like he could physically overpower her. So there you go. That's what we got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, sir, I don't like it. You don't know she has an allergic reaction to that sedative. You swear jar. What if she had an epileptic seizure? How dare you? I'm very angry for Astrid.
I know. And then in the next, it does it really get dealt with? I don't think so.
It doesn't. I will say this. There's a thing that happens where all of a sudden the relationships will shift because of a thing that happens. And the shift itself is also not consistent. So throughout the show, you will see very different relationships between all of these characters. Like there is a whole, I want to say half a season where Astrid and Walter are very cold to one another. And Astrid is just like not taking it and like saying stuff back and just not interested in him and not charmed by him at all. And it's a different dynamic. So I don't know that the show will ever address it because it's unfortunately one of those things where it's like, I want them to have addressed it. But at the same time, Walter's probably very protected because he knows about the pattern and he knows about different things. And he's probably got like, clearance and nonsense. And like by episode 5, they're working together to create homing pigeon stuff, and not buddy-buddy, but like definitely close quarters.
Well, because Astrid's, a professional. She'll do her job.
I think we see that with Peter and Olivia too.
Yes.
They start out really button heads. I love Olivia's voiceover where she first introduces Peter.
Yeah.
Me too. Dropped out of MIT, has an IQ of 190.
Exactly. That whole thing. It was very Ocean's 11. Loved it.
Yeah.
And then what in Showtime feels like 10 minutes later, they're having coffee and they're chatting and they're talking about their childhoods. And you're kind of like, wait, when did this happen?
What just happened? No, my favorite thing is where she like lets it slip that she bluffed.
Yes, exactly. That's the scene I'm talking about. That's the coffee scene.
That is the coffee scene because she can't hold the bluff anymore because he's like, so what's in the file? And she's like, stuff. And it's just like, wow, you bluffed so good. You rolled a 20 on that first bluff. And then you like crit fail. And then he sees right through it, and she's like, I know, I'm sorry, I needed you here.
And then 2 episodes later, he's playing her jazz on a piano. How'd that happen? I'm not upset by it.
Peter's a lover, not a fighter. Our Pete. I believe that about Peter, I feel like he only did all that other stuff because like he was just like, there's like nothing. I'm like too smart for everything and like bored. And also I have a complicated childhood. I'm just going to go into like crime, but like I'll try not to make it violent crime.
I mean, I definitely put on my bingo card for these 5 episodes any moment when the 2 of them look each other in the eye and communicate without saying any words.
Yeah.
Because it happens frequently.
All the time.
Speaking about looking at someone and communicating with them, so The Observer.
Yes.
I mean...
What did you think about September?
I can't wait to find out more. I'm kind of
I'm sure
intrigued.
that's also a spoiler. By the way, spoilers, his name in September.
Oh,
I was going to say.
oh my God, are there 12 of them? Are they each named a month? Is that why he's named September? You just made a face in the Zoom, Joy. And the listeners at home couldn't see it, so I need to tell the listeners she made a face. There were eyebrows. I think I'm onto something. I think I'm onto you,
attack
Fringe.
eyebrows.
I think I know where this is heading. But yeah, so he really shows up. I mean, you see him in the background of practically every episode up to
Except the
where
pilot, I think.
I'm pretty sure he's in the
Yeah.
pilot too. Are
Is
you
he?
sure?
I don't know.
I could swear I
I
saw him
do
in
think
there.
I saw him in the pilot. They just never address him.
Well, now we might have to go back season look, but anyway, so like with the fourth one, where you really start to unpack that there's this observer. He's been there through time and space. Walter owes him a favor. I would say that the fourth episode is one of the weird ones.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah,
And that's where we
definitely
get a
weird.
lot of that backstory.
And then you also get a lot more of John Scott coming back. By the way, we thought like he was dead, but then not dead. Like, because look, he dies, right? And then
That's how I feel about
the
that.
pilot ends with what's her name?
Nina Sharp.
From Nina Sharp being like, how dead is he? 5 hours. All right, interrogate him, because like we've set up in the pilot before that like up to 6 hours into death, you can do the thing where you take someone's eye and see the last thing that they saw, and because brain images and stuff. And I'm just like, I like when Terry Pratchett did it better, and he had an imp like paint it. And when Sam Vimes does it, it's much better.
I'm sorry, they didn't have an imp on the FBI payroll.
So anyway, so like we know they're doing weird science to John Scott, and then he keeps showing up, and we don't know if it's because he's a ghost or if he's been like Frankenstein, or if he's just a figment of Olivia's imagination, like
Right.
the remnants of the memories of him when she mind melded with him in a vat of salt water in a deprivation thing.
While hopped up on so many drugs.
So many drugs.
But one of my favorite Peter quote of all time is still him from behind Walter going, "That last one's LSD, by the way."
I see. My favorite Peter quote is, "It always comes back to the duck." I love that
Oh
quote.
no, Walter. That one's
Oh
Walter.
no, it's Walter. Right, it was Walter. It always comes back to the duck. I don't even remember what the context of what that was, but it's seared in my brain.
It was
That
that,
one-
duck, rabbit, duck, rabbit, duck,
Yeah.
rabbit whole thing.
Yeah, for the
Oh,
communication of like your brain will always bring stuff around its normal, natural neural pathways, which is why he can hear people talking instead of. Which is why he can see it happening
Yes.
instead of being able to like translate it into what's actually happening.
I know that I didn't really care much for episode 3 because I only have 3 notes for it that I took.
Oh no. Okay.
One, get yourself a Charlie. Two, hashtag, it always comes back to the duck.
Yep.
And 3, why is it in the agent's hand for the easy stigmata? And that's all I have for episode 3. So I would say episode 3 is another one of those weird ones.
Yeah, no, episode 3 was definitely a weird one. Episode 3 is my favorite, like, I don't know if he counts as a side character, but my favorite one-off character, which is Roy McComb, who's just like, just trying to live his life, man.
Yeah. He's just trying to be a good Catholic boy. And
He's just trying to be a good Catholic.
And he tried to make some money as a student, and Walter got to him. So
Yeah.
Which Walter didn't even remember. I mean, like, this is a really good establishing thing of, like, the things that Walter did while he was at Harvard that he doesn't even remember and doesn't even have context for. Like,
I mean, here's the thing, though. One, I think we can establish that Walter was throwing so much spaghetti at the wall in that time period. But 2, he's also been in a mental institution for 17 years. And for at least the first 10 of those, they were, like, shoving him full of pills to, like, keep him calm before, like, it became, like, a little less, like, kosher to do that to people.
Right.
So,
I'm pretty sure there was some electric shock involved
I know.
also.
And I'm just like, of course he doesn't remember the guy. He barely remembers his own name. Like, it's, to me, him not remembering the guy, if he had been living in the suburbs somewhere, like, retired, and he was just like, and you were trying to frame as someone who was careless in a very
intentional way.
Yes, where he does not care about people because he's cruel, whereas Walter doesn't think about people. He can't think about people. He doesn't have the capacity for it anymore. And I'm not even saying he necessarily had it to begin with when he was at Harvard. I would need some flashback episodes, but I'm saying like 17 years in a mental institution isn't good for anybody. I believe that he doesn't remember anything about his time at Harvard.
We are in 100% agreement about that. I think one of the reasons it rubs me the wrong way is because I don't know if because he can be very myopic, and he treats Olivia with something almost akin to sympathy and attempts to treat Peter with sympathy also, and everyone else is just blips of data for him.
Maybe.
I think.
Even with Peter, I think, I don't even know if I would say he treats him with sympathy, because he sees Peter as 8 years old.
Also true.
You know, he doesn't understand who Peter is, and he doesn't understand that Peter's grown up. And every comment he makes about Peter is just like, 92% of babies who are, I think he says Caucasian babies, but 92% of babies, white babies, are born with blue eyes. Yours were green. And that's it. Peter's a baby. Peter's a child.
Yeah. Well, until it's you squandered everything you've ever done, and he's lecturing him while he's naked.
Yes. It's one or the other. It's that or he's yelling at him. It's one or the other, exactly. It's that or he's yelling at him for being, as you said, myopic, which Peter is.
Yeah.
Until I think the end of episode 4.
No, the end of episode 4 is the first time we actually see the two of them being very tender with each other, which I really enjoy. One of the reasons, like, episode 4 is probably my favorite one of the 5 we watched, just because it opens up. You finally get to know, and you are right, the observer is in episode 1. He's walking down the street in front of Massive Dynamic.
Amazing.
As the title cards roll.
Yeah, I felt like I saw this guy. I've seen this guy in every episode.
They sprinkle him in.
No, and you get the payoff. Like, that's what I like. This show does a couple of things right. It gives you payoff. Whether or not you like the payoff is a different matter. And it gives you consequences to what happens in the show. And it builds on the stuff that it establishes pretty well.
No,
but you got to actually watch the episodes to actually understand all the stuff that it builds on.
That's the thing. Having seen the entire thing and then now having gone back and started from the beginning again, I kind of forgot how early they planted so many of these seeds. I forgot that they mentioned within the first 5 episodes that the observer saved Peter from the ice. Like, I forgot so many of those little things that become so important later.
Yeah. And, like, I was watching these, having only watched a handful of them and then never finished the series. But the sense I get watching it now is like either the way they're setting things up, like, well, this is why the Shadow Council upsets me. I'm like, but you set them up. But I do have faith that the show is setting up things expecting me to pay attention to it.
Yes.
Like, right down to like those interstitial cards with like the Omega Frog and the 6-fingered man. And I'm like, Gravity Falls, is that you?
There is code in there, but like, I'm not a code person, so I don't actually know. And the internet has decoded them a long time. Clues to like some of the people who did it, or there's like people's names. It's like, it's
surprising
really
no one, because this is a J.J. Abrams joint. And like, he really kind of made a name for himself for being that guy. When did Lost end, though? Because Lost, like, was just like...
I want to say it was
Lost had so many... Oh, it ran from 2004 to 2010. And, like, that... Man, could you imagine, like... We gotta take a time back machine a little bit and remember, like... So it's 2008. Lost is, like, one of the biggest shows on TV, but people are starting to get a little like, but how's it gonna end? Where's the polar bear enter into it? What's going on the island? Are they all dead? And like, it's not going to end for another 2 years. And then JJ rolls up with this new show, Fringe. And I know he's just executive producer, like, but still, like, he's got his name on it. So people come in with expectations of like the level of mystery that's going to be there. And then imagine like you're in the middle of Fringe, which runs for 5 seasons, and what in the middle of it, Lost ends and everyone loses their mind because it was awful. I almost want to check out the timing of that because wait a minute. So when was season 4 of Fringe, and what was it in relationship to Lost? I have questions.
Tell us.
Go.
Okay, wait. So season 4 premiered September 23, 2011, and Lost ended in 2010.
Okay.
Like, I, you know what? This is it. This is my big Fringe conspiracy theory.
Ooh.
Like, the reason 4 and 5 are so out there is because Lost ended and people hated it. And the writers of the show panicked.
Yep.
That's it. That's my QAnon level conspiracy theory for the show. Okay? Like, I don't care if it's not true. I want to believe.
There it is.
Well, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready. I got to make it to season 4 and 5.
Nice. Nice. All right.
I have a theory.
Do it, Nella. We knew you would find the will to continue.
Well, you see, John Scott tried to kill me and I had to kill him, and the trauma of that made it so I had to follow the pattern and join the Fringe division because I had nothing else in my life to live for. I had to see it to the end now. That's it. That's the episode.
And there it is. That's the episode. Sorry. There's something about the desperation of needing to connect this to Lost that I'm just like, I don't know, my brain might explode. I don't know if I can follow you on that journey, but I'm here for your Lost update.
I didn't even watch Lost. I just saw my friends lose it. So now I'm committed. I'm committed to this.
Same.
Oh,
Lost is one of the ones that I didn't watch. And
wait, none of it? Zero of it?
I watched most of the first season, which is hilarious because then like Michael Emerson shows up as well as what's his name? And I'm just like, I should go back and rewatch those episodes because I love those guys. And like the fact that they have this like relationship in Lost that is like, there's a lot of twisty things I could do in my person of interest fic with it if I wanted to, but then I just never have the will to just do it.
Yeah, it's a lot of show. It's a lot of show. I say that having seen only season 1.
Yeah, same. And like I remember watching season 1 and being like, what a weird mystery. Can't wait to find out what happens. And then like I walked away.
You did the thing you do?
Yep.
I did the thing I do. I was watching and I was like, I will love this thing forever. Ooh, something shiny. And I walked away and I forgot it was there. And then it became Spinel. Like to bring it back to Steven Universe.
I was going to say,
I was Pink Diamond the whole time.
I wonder what the something shiny was.
Around that time? Around 2004?
Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
Could have been a lot of things. Well, that would have been something in college probably, right? Was it Phantom? No, Phantom would have been earlier.
Phantom was much earlier than that. I mean, I went to Italy for a study abroad.
I mean, that'll distract you from the sci-fi, from the weird sci-fi thing of the people lost on the island.
Yeah.
Well, am I sensing that we're wrapping this up?
I think we have begun our dive into Fringe and you know the pseudoscience and the poppycock that the show wants us to swallow.
I know there wasn't a lot of it here. Can I ask you though, Nella?
Elevators do not work that way. I'm sorry. Elevators and pituitary glands do not work that way, and that's all I'm going to say about the matter.
Neither do cows.
Yeah. No. Okay. Oh wait. Hang on. Let's just talk about that cow for one moment. All right. We just got to end on the cow, and then I promise I'm done for the night. I swear. I'm so sorry, but I have to take a moment.
No.
Do you know?
Talk about Gene.
All right. Okay. Look. Fine. You want a cow?
I was the one who brought up the cow.
Like, okay, Fine. You want the cow in the basement. Do you know how much milk like a cow that has been bred for milk making will produce every day? 7 gallons of milk.
Oh, damn.
Now, when it's just feeding its own young, it's about 1 gallon a day. But still, that is 1 gallon of milk a day. And you have to milk that cow every day or you don't get any milk anymore. And then you got to impregnate the cow and get another heifer. And then you got to start the process all over again. He's got to milk her every day. Fine. A milked cow goes for anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000. So that's already some money that the FBI is dropping on a cow. Mm-hmm. And third off, that cow needs sun. What does a cow do overnight? Do you sleep with the cow?
I mean,
obviously not. You go back to the hotel and you keep your son awake.
Danielle and I said, at the same time, because we're both like, Walter would 100% pull up a cot and be like, hey, Gene.
Well, he would, but he's not allowed to. He has to go back to the hotel and sleep with his son and keep him awake and talking about root beer and the ingredients for root beer, like he's read World War Z or something.
That was, by the way, on my bingo card. Walter talks about food.
Yes, Walter talks about food. You're going to see this a lot. Walter likes talking about food. But yes,
I would talk about food a lot too if I'd been in a mental institution for 17 years. I can assure you, I'm sure their pizza's terrible. I don't even want to think about what mental institution pizza would be like.
Is there something you're excited to see in upcoming episodes, Nella?
Justice for Astrid.
Justice for Astrid. Okay.
More Charlie. I want Charlie to have his day. I want him to have his moment.
Okay.
I love Charlie. He's just a good boyo. I love him.
I also love them both. I'm going to maintain this tone of voice so that I don't give anything away.
He does. He's going to die. He's going to die.
I'm not going to say anything.
All right. So I'm just going to make the bet. All right. Let's see. What season does Charlie die in? Well, if we go by person of interest rules of everyone I love dies, I'm going to say it's going to take place towards the end of season 2. Hide your face. All right. So this is my bet, everyone. This is my bet for the show. Charlie is going to eat it towards the end of season 2.
Yeah. How are you feeling about Astrid, though? Where are we going to go with her?
I don't know. I mean, with Astrid, it's just like, she's like the one woman of color. I really hope she stops being the lab assistant and comes into her own. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll like, look, I'll just take that at this point. Like, just don't make her the intern. She's not an intern. She's a federal agent. Treat her like one.
I always want Astrid to be more than the... Like, there's even other characters who would, like, say something, and then it would be like you'd suddenly remember they were in the room.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? I know things.
Yeah.
Like that thing with the Latin. Like, oh, wait,
True.
she is speaking Latin, you know.
Oh, yeah. And then she majored in linguistics, I guess.
Yeah, she majored in linguistics, which I was also just like, and then you ended up at the FBI to, like, play nursemaid to Walter Bishop, and I felt bad.
I know. But yeah, we shall. I mean, look, I want Astrid to live her best life. I want her to leave the FBI and, like, do something actually good with her life. But, I mean, I know it's not going to happen in the show.
Well, spoilers.
Okay, well.
Exactly. I'm sitting here just trying not to change the way my face looks.
Look, I will put money, like I will put money, and I might regret this, but I will put money on that Astrid doesn't die, but Charlie does. So we'll see how wrong I am as we continue.
The silence you hear,
and nobody spoil this on Twitter
me
for me. I mean,
not
it, Twitter
changing my face.
Twitter, you do not spoil this for me, okay? Don't do it. Don't be like, but Charlie dies or Astrid dies here. And like, no, don't do it. All right, let this look. I am someone who I spoil everything for myself. I am not going to spoil myself for this. This is. I'm going to come to this organically.
And
I can't wait.
I'm going to try my damnedest not to spoil as much as possible.
Don't do it, Joy.
It's so hard for me.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
The obvious OTP in the show.
I mean, obviously, Peter Olivia.
When do you think that's going to happen?
Now, that's a good question.
I mean, just by the rules of Mulder and Scully, never.
But technically, the rules of Mulder and Scully are like off screen in quotation marks.
I mean, I know everything goes off the rails in season 4, and it sounds like season 4 is like Person of Interest season 4, where it's just painful. So a part of me feels like it's going to be at the end of season 3, and you think you finally have your happy thing, and then it all gets taken from you cruelly, and how dare they? So so that's my bet. Peter, Olivia, we're going to have it towards the end of season 3. We're going to think this is it. We can finally know happiness, and then they're going to take it all away from us.
I love that. That is a great way to end this podcast episode. Joy,
Yes.
are you feeling like that is a great way to end this podcast episode?
Yeah, no, I feel like we're there. The only thing
Look,
left to
I have
do
put my
is-
predictions between the 2 Tesla coils, and we're going to see if they guide me
these
home.
homing pigeons land on the building. Well, so Nella, why don't you tell people what you're doing, where to find you, and what's happening in your life?
Sure. You can find me on YouTube at Nella Explains a Thing. You can also find us at a podcast called The Apocalypse Book Club, where I, from my friend Raven, we're reading all apocalyptic fiction in chronological order. And on Twitter, I'm Nellacrinism. But I took Twitter off my phone, and honestly, I'm like, my crops are watered, my skin is clear. I really only post on Twitter to like let you know when things drop. My hot takes, I leave them to my cats.
Honestly, your cats are probably happier to have them.
But yeah, can't wait till next time, friends.
Can't wait till next time. Okay, well, between now and then, we would love to hear from you. Please check us out at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can answer the question, who is your favorite side character in Fringe, and where do you think their character arc is going? You can also email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com.
That's right. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell the Charlies in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.